Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Mackenzie, and this is my co-host for the day. He does not have a name yet, but today we're bringing you a species spotlight about gargoyle geckos. Now, before we get started, as I mentioned, this little friend does not have a name yet. We're also not sure if it's a boy or a girl, so we don't really have any name suggestions picked out. We're just kind of waiting around until something comes up that we end up going with that sticks. So for now, President's Choice, No Name Brand, is going to help us with the video. So as in our first species spotlight, we're going to be talking about different things such as the overall look, habitat, diet, location, temperament, all that good stuff, and then any other fun facts that we have about these creatures. So without further delay, let's get into it. Gargoyle geckos are small-ish, robust-bodied geckos that measure at about 8 inches when they're full grown, including their tails, and they look very, very similar to crested geckos, but they're a little bit more thick in the body than a crested gecko is. They're called gargoyle geckos because of the little bumpy horn-like protrusions on their skulls that represent statues of gargoyles in older architecture. So if we look on his head, it might be hard to see, but he has these little bumps. If these aren't good, I'll take a different video and put them in. But he has these little bumps on his head that kind of look like little gargoyle horns. These geckos come in many different colors, from brown to yellow, orange, red. There's some gray in there sometimes. And they have a couple different patterns that you can see on them as well. This brings us to fun fact number 1. So gargoyle geckos can change colors. They have 2 different color stages, essentially, that are called either being fired up or fired down. So fired up is where their colors are very vibrant and intense. So if they have a lot of the dark colors on them like this guy does, whoa, they'll be very dark colored. And when he is fired down, I keep calling him he because I just feel like he is a he. When they're fired down, he's a lot more gray, muted. The oranges and the vibrancy of him kind of goes away. So he's kind of in between right now, but they can either be fired up or fired down depending on how they're feeling. Next, we'll talk about location and habitat. So gargoyle geckos come from New Caledonia, which is an island off of the coast of Australia, and Fiji. This is the same place that crested geckos and Chihuahua geckos come from, so a lot of their habitat and environment needs are the same. So New Caledonia is a subtropical island, as I said, off the coast of Australia and Fiji. So these geckos require very little in terms of heat in their enclosure. They're typically found between 72 and 78 degrees, which is basically the temperature that most of us keep our houses at. We kind of keep them on the lower end for the most part, and it's actually better for these guys to have less heat than more. So they can survive at temperatures down to about 60 degrees, but if they get to about 82 degrees or higher, they are not going to have a good time and will probably pass away from that. So cooler temperatures are actually tolerated by these guys, as well as the crested geckos and the Chihuahua geckos, and warmer temperatures are contraindicated. As far as humidity, they require between 50 to 70% humidity, so misting them in the mornings and at night at least once will help keep their humidity up. They also tend to drink water from leaves in the form of droplets, so making sure that they have a regular misting schedule to both help with the humidity and help with making sure that water is available is definitely a good practice. These geckos are also arboreal, meaning they live in trees. So they do lots of climbing, as you can see. So climbing spots should be provided for them. So you want to have lots of sticks and branches, lots of horizontal surfaces for them to kind of jump and land on, and lots of dense foliage helps them kind of travel around a little bit easier. Diet-wise, there is a difference between wild gargoyle geckos and captive gargoyle geckos. So in the wild, their diet is fairly varied. They eat bugs, different fruits, some flowers, sap, sometimes small lizards, really whatever they can kind of find and consume, they will consume in the wild. But that means in captivity, we also have to make sure that their diet is fairly varied. Now, the nice thing about these guys is they are actually super easy to take care of in captivity. Like we said before, habitat-wise, it's not too difficult. Diet-wise, it's also not too difficult. Hi. They can basically live on crested gecko diet. So that is a powdered food source that contains different fruits, bugs, etc. You can get them in different flavors from different companies depending on which one you like best. And all you do is mix the powder with water, stir it up until it makes kind of like a smoothie or like a yogurt consistency, and then they will actually eat that and be fairly content with this. You can supplement different bug sources like crickets or cockroaches for them if you want to, just to kind of keep their diet varied, but it's not technically necessary, as you can get the bugs in the crested gecko diet that they can also consume. Wow, you didn't even try jumping! You didn't even try! And as far as water, as I mentioned before, they tend to drink water from water droplets that collect on plants and leaves. Next, this brings us to temperament. So again, as I've said several times by this point in the video, gargoyle geckos are great starter pets, and that is also because of their temperament, along with all of the other categories basically that we've touched on along this video. As you can see, they're fairly easy to hold, they're very docile, meaning they're unlikely to bite you. They might once they get a little bit older, but chances are they're pretty chill. It seems the only things that they really attempt to do ever is jump on you, off of you, away from you, to their death. They don't really discriminate as far as where they're jumping, and it's kind of comical to watch as long as you catch them. Let's see if he jumps. Yeah, there you go. Like that. That's what he usually does. Just jumps on my clothes and then climbs up my shoulder, and then he climbs onto my face, typically. So we'll let him chill there while I talk so that hopefully there's no more jumping. He's still very small, so I don't want to lose him, but like I said, most of what they do is jumping. So that's something, as far as children, you want to make sure that they're holding them fairly close to the ground so that they don't jump from full height unless you know that you can catch them. They do end up, for the most part, calming down as they get a little bit bigger because they're not as afraid of things. He's still really small, like I said, so he's probably a little bit hesitant about being around a big creature such as myself, but they kind of chill out a little bit as they get older. So as I said, I absolutely love interacting with him. It's very fun for me to try and catch him, and it makes me laugh every time he jumps around. I feed him by hand most times just because I think that it's cool, and he will lick the gecko diet off of your finger and then lick his little face if he gets messy while he's doing it. It's just very cute, and they're very cute to watch. They're not typically aggressive towards people, so you're not really going to risk any kind of like threat behavior from them. It's more so going to be them jumping around and either trying to jump on you or away from you, whichever they're feeling that day. They do end up coming across as kind of dumb sometimes, just like crested geckos do. It seems like they just jump into oblivion and hope for the best. It seems like their brains don't work super often, and then every once in a while the brain cells collide with each other and they have a thought, and then that's really funny to watch. It is important to mention though that gargoyle geckos can be territorial if you try and keep them in groups or pairs. So if you are going to do that, it is very important to make sure that there are hiding places so that they don't have to look at each other all the time, because apparently they don't really like that. They kind of got those dead, unblinking eyes. I wouldn't really want you to stare at me all day either. And make sure, as always, you do research to see appropriate tank size as far as keeping more than one of them. And then always make sure that you're checking in on the animals when you put them together to make sure that nobody's getting injured or stressed out or anything like that. And if you see any signs of stress, it's probably best to separate them. And then the last thing about temperament is just something to keep in mind if you're expecting them to be kind of active and cool and doing things during the day. They are pretty well nocturnal, so they are more active at nighttime. I'm assuming because then they don't feel as threatened, they're less out in the open. So if they just kind of hang around during the day, that's pretty normal for them. They'll do more stuff at nighttime. They're still fine to hold and stuff. Like, it's, 5:30 p.m. right now? The sun is still out. I probably woke him up to do this video, but he's fine. He's just chilling. But keep that in mind if you're expecting it to be super active and doing things during the day. They probably aren't doing a whole lot during the daytime. Since we've mentioned housing them together and potentially being stressed out or attacking each other, that brings us to fun fact number 2. So, like crested geckos and many other gecko species, gargoyle geckos can drop their tails if they are threatened or feel like they need to escape something, or if they're being attacked by something. They can drop their tail so that hopefully whatever is attacking them goes for the wiggly tail and not them, and then they can escape. But the interesting thing, they can grow their tails back. So crested geckos, you've probably seen one before. They have no tail, they have the frog butt, quote unquote. These guys will grow their tails back over time. It's never perfectly the same as it was when they started, because all of the bones that are in their tail gets replaced with cartilage. So it has apparently a little bit less flexibility to it, but it looks more or less exactly like their regular tail by the time that it is fully grown out again. And they can do this multiple times. So they can regrow and drop their tail, I'm pretty sure, as many times as they really feel like it, which is nice because I don't really like the way that the crested geckos look without their tails. I think they look kind of silly. So hopefully this little friend doesn't ever drop their tail, but if they do, it's nice to know that it will grow back eventually. Well, everybody, with the tail fun fact out of the way, that brings us to the tail end of the video. Gargoyle geckos are fantastic creatures with their own personalities and many different colors to see. They're amazing starter pets for their ease of care as far as humidity, heating, and feeding, and they're fairly hardy, which means they can take, temperature fluctuations, stuff like that, and they'll still be totally fine. I highly recommend looking into a New Caledonian species of gecko for a pet if you're looking to get a gecko. I would stick more to the crested gecko or the gargoyle gecko to start, just because they're a little bit easier to take care of. The Chihuahuas and the Lychees are still awesome, but they're just that little bit bigger. So if you want a bigger gecko, look for those ones. If you're okay with them being a little bit on the smaller side, these guys and crested geckos are great for you. Do your own research and make sure that you're picking the one that you're most excited about, because then you're more likely to take care of them. So with that being said, thank you very much to my co-host, President's Choice, no name, whatever we want to call him right now. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure you like and subscribe, as it helps the channel out, and it means a lot to me. And so long for now, I will see you guys in the next video. Why are you death staring me? I can't win a staring contest with you. It doesn't work. You don't blink. Ow.